straight from their triumphant Philharmonic Hall, the Supremes!
You've given me a true love, and every day I thank you, love.
She was a founding member of the Supremes, one of the most successful groups in music history. Her voice helped define the sound of Motown, and her charisma lit up every stage she stepped on. But Florence Ballard's life wasn't the fairy tale that her early success might suggest.
So she lost everything.
Behind the glitter and gold of Motown's biggest hits was a story of struggle, heartbreak, and loss. This is the life of Florence Ballard, a journey from the heights of fame to a tragic end that still haunts music history.
When Florence started having these problems, and it wasn't her fault, she was actually abused.
Florence Ballard was born on June 30th, 1943, in Detroit, Michigan, as the ninth of 13 children in a close-knit but financially struggling family. Growing up in the Brewster Douglas housing projects, one of Detroit's largest public housing complexes, Florence was surrounded by the challenges of poverty. Despite these hardships, she found joy and comfort in singing, a gift that quickly became her greatest passion. Her voice was powerful and soulful, filled with emotion and a natural depth that drew attention even at a young age. Florence attended Northwestern High School in Detroit, where her love for music flourished. It was during these formative years that she crossed paths with Mary Wilson and Diana Ross, two young women who shared her dream of making it big in the music industry. The trio quickly bonded over their shared ambition and mutual love for singing, practicing harmonies, and performing together at school events and local talent shows. Determined to chase their dreams, they formed a vocal group called the Primettes alongside Betty McGlone, the fourth original member. The Primettes began performing at local events and parties, with Florence often stealing the spotlight. Her commanding stage presence and natural charisma made her a standout, earning admiration from audiences and setting the group apart from other local acts. Florence's leadership and vocal talent were instrumental in guiding the group through their early struggles, laying the foundation for what would later become the Supremes. Even in these humble beginnings, it was clear that Florence was destined for something far greater. In 1961, the Primettes auditioned for Gordy at Motown Records, eager to make their dreams of stardom a reality. Though Gordy was initially hesitant to sign the group, citing their youth and lack of polish, their persistence paid off, and they officially joined the Motown roster. With the new name The Supremes, the group began their journey under the legendary label. However, their early years were far from glamorous. Between 1961 and 1963, the Supremes released a series of singles that failed to chart, earning them the unflattering nickname, the No-Hit Supremes. Despite the setbacks, Florence Ballard's determination and energy helped keep the group motivated. She brought humor and a sense of camaraderie during the difficult times, often reminding her bandmates of the bigger picture. Florence's powerful voice was a cornerstone of their live performances, and her ability to connect with audiences helped the group maintain their confidence. Their fortunes changed in 1964 when Motown released Where Did Our Love Go? The song's catchy melody and smooth vocals propelled it to the top of the charts, marking the Supremes' first #1 hit. It was a breakthrough moment, launching them into the spotlight and solidifying their place in music history. With their newfound fame, the Supremes quickly followed up with a string of chart-topping hits, including Baby Love and Stop in the Name of Love. These songs turned the group into international stars, making them one of Motown's most successful acts. Florence, with her vibrant stage presence and striking voice, played a vital role in their rise. She was often seen as the heart of the group, captivating audiences with her charisma and energy. As the Supremes gained global recognition, they became pioneers, breaking barriers as one of the first black groups to achieve mainstream success. They appeared on major TV shows, toured internationally, and became style icons. Florence Ballard's contributions during this golden era were undeniable, as her voice and personality helped shape the group's identity. It was a dream come true, but as their fame soared, challenges began to emerge that would change the group forever. As the Supremes' fame reached new heights, the dynamic within the group began to shift dramatically. Gordy, Motown's founder and driving force, saw immense potential in Diana Ross, believing her soft, polished voice and unique style could appeal to a broader audience. Gordy started grooming Diana as the face and voice of the Supremes, sidelining Florence Ballard, whose powerful gospel-influenced voice had initially been one of the group's defining features. Florence, who had always been a key player in the group's early days, began to feel the effects of this change almost immediately. Her leads on songs became fewer and fewer as Diana took center stage. Promotional materials, interviews, and album covers increasingly focused on Diana, often downplaying the contributions of Florence and Mary Wilson. This shift left Florence feeling overlooked and undervalued, especially given her vital role in the Supremes' early success. The growing tension between Florence and Gordy became hard to ignore. Florence was outspoken about her frustration with being pushed aside, which only deepened the rift between her and the group's management. This frustration also began to strain her relationship with Diana, who under Gordy's guidance was becoming more prominent. While Mary Wilson often tried to maintain peace within the group, the cracks in their bond were undeniable. Florence's sense of exclusion weighed heavily on her, both emotionally and professionally. As her role in the group diminished, so did her enthusiasm for performing. She struggled with feelings of rejection, watching as the spotlight she once shared dimmed entirely. The growing divide within the group and the increasing focus on Diana left Florence feeling isolated and disconnected from the success they had worked so hard to achieve together. This internal struggle began to take a toll on Florence's confidence and mental health. The joy she once found in performing was replaced by resentment and sadness, and her frustrations began to affect her behavior during rehearsals and performances. Despite her immense talent and contribution to the Supremes, Florence found herself being edged out of the very group she had helped create, setting the stage for a heartbreaking turn in her career. The stress and disappointment of being pushed into the background began to take a heavy toll on Florence Ballard's mental health. Feeling sidelined and unsupported, she turned to alcohol as a way to cope with her growing frustrations. This coping mechanism soon began to affect her work. Florence's once vibrant stage presence became inconsistent, and she started missing rehearsals and performances. Her behavior, which was often a reflection of her emotional struggles, created additional tension within the group and with Motown management. By 1967, the situation reached its breaking point. Gordy, who had already shifted much of his focus to Diana Ross, saw Florence's struggles as a liability to the group's success. The decision was made to remove her from the Supremes, a move that devastated Florence. Cindy Birdsong, a member of Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells, was brought in to replace her. The group continued to thrive without Florence, rebranded as Diana Ross and the Supremes, further solidifying Diana's role as the centerpiece of Motown's most famous act. For Florence, leaving the Supremes marked the beginning of a difficult new chapter. Determined to prove herself, she attempted to launch a solo career. In 1968, she signed with ABC Records and released a few singles. However, her solo work failed to gain traction. Without the promotional power and influence of Motown behind her, Florence struggled to reach the same level of success she had enjoyed as a Supreme. Additionally, the music industry, which was becoming more competitive and dominated by Motown's machine-like efficiency, offered little room for an artist without a solid support system. Florence's financial troubles compounded her struggles. Her earnings from her time with the Supremes were limited due to Motown's strict contracts, and she faced mounting debts. She also found herself in legal battles over royalties, which only added to her difficulties. Despite her best efforts to rebuild her career, the odds were stacked against her, and she faced numerous obstacles that she couldn't overcome on her own. In the years following her departure, Florence experienced moments of hope, such as reconnecting with her family and performing locally. But these were often short-lived. Her health and confidence continued to decline, and without the resources and support she needed, her solo career never reached its full potential. Florence's departure from the Supremes wasn't just the end of her time with the group. It marked the start of a heartbreaking struggle to reclaim her place in an industry that had moved on without her. After leaving the Supremes, Florence Ballard's life became a heartbreaking struggle for survival. Stripped of the fame and financial stability she once had, she found herself facing mounting hardships. The earnings she made during her time with the Supremes were limited due to Motown's tight contracts, leaving her with little to fall back on. Financial troubles soon overwhelmed her, and she often struggled to provide for her 3 daughters. The weight of raising her children as a single mother, coupled with the loss of her career, made every day an uphill battle. At her lowest point, Florence was evicted from her home and forced to rely on welfare to make ends meet. It was a sharp contrast to the life of glamour and success she had experienced just a few years earlier. The evictions, poverty, and constant stress wore heavily on her, further affecting her mental and physical health. Despite the hardships, Florence remained determined to find her way back to the music world. She occasionally performed locally, singing at small venues and for supportive fans who still admired her talent. While these moments gave her brief glimpses of hope, they were not enough to restore her confidence or provide a stable income. Her declining health became another significant challenge. Years of emotional pain and financial stress had taken a toll on her body, and she struggled with depression and fatigue. Florence tried to make a comeback in the early 1970s, including recording new material and reconnecting with the music industry, but she lacked the support and resources to regain her footing. Many industry insiders who could have helped turned a blind eye, focusing instead on the newer stars of the era. In 1975, Florence showed signs of recovery, with reports that she was beginning to piece her life back together. She reunited with her family and even purchased a small home. But the years of stress, poor nutrition, and health issues had already taken their toll. On February 22, 1976, Florence Ballard tragically passed away from a heart attack at the age of just 32. Her death shocked fans, and those who had followed her rise to fame and fall from the spotlight. It marked the end of a life that had once been filled with so much promise and potential. Florence Ballard's story is one of immense talent and devastating loss. She went from being a key member of one of the world's most iconic groups to struggling for survival, a journey that reflects the harsh realities of the music industry and the pressures of fame. Though her life ended far too soon, Florence's legacy endures, reminding us of her incredible contributions to Motown and her role in shaping the history of music.